Start over again. Thank you. Welcome tonight. Thanks for joining me tonight. My name is Paul. I own and operate Whitman Marine Training. Do a lot of boating safety training throughout New Jersey. Where tonight we are going to be talking about boating along the Intercoastal Waterway back behind along New Jersey, along the Barnegat Bay. We're going from Barnegat Township tonight all the way up to the Route 37 bridge. Quite a bit of water back there, quite a bit of things to talk about. And it's good, just a good idea, before we really just get into the main boating season, might as well just take a look at the chart, point some things out. Hopefully, maybe if you haven't been to this area before, maybe we can point some new things out, or if you have been to this area before, if you see something that maybe we should know or something that we don't know, feel free to, raise your hand and let us know. I have been doing this series in partnership with a couple of other people. Happy Captain's Boating Instruction. Captain Ed is on the call tonight. He will be helping us along this area. I'm not sure if Sea Scout Ship 117 is on the call tonight. If they are on the call, please raise your hand. They may be helping us out tonight. I'm not sure if they are or not on the call. And John Anderson, he helped me out quite a bit on the Delaware River. There is quite a few people on the call tonight. We are going to be, if you didn't hear the warning already, we are recording the call this evening with the idea that we will eventually, when time permits, clean the recording up and get it posted up on our YouTube channel. Just kind of search Whitman Marine Training and you'll be able to find it there eventually. I do work full time, so whenever I have a chance to get these cleaned up, I will get them up there. So please refrain from using profanity. Treat everybody on the call and every object or a place with respect, because it's really difficult to go back and find all those things to pull it out of there. Same thing with politics. We deal with all that stuff during the day. I don't really want to have to deal with that on this call. Also, try to keep your camera off if you don't want to have anything in the back of you that we don't want to see. And that's just something else I had to figure out how to get off the screen and get out of the way. I will be kind of interactive during this as we change screens, or if you have any questions, please feel free to, raise your hand. Depending upon what your screen looks like, there should be a raise your hand button somewhere on your screen. If you have an iPad or Android tablet, your screen may look like what you see right now. There will be some buttons via that arrow. You press that, press the raise hand button, and you should be able to do that. Okay. We are pretty far along in our webinars right now. We did start these back in March at the top of the Delaware River up there in Trenton, and we have been working our way down. We went all the way down around New Jersey, and we are slowly working our way up the New Jersey coast. We are currently, again, right now, we are going to be talking about, the Intercoastal Waterway back behind in Barnegat Bay. The next one next week. We're going to be skipping Monday because I don't want to do this when I should be at a barbecue. On next Wednesday, 1 week from today, we're going to be talking about above Route 37 bridge to the Point Pleasant Canal. And then in June, we're going to be wrapping it up. We're going to be covering all the rivers and a whole bunch of other stuff up until we get to the New York Harbor. Then I have a guy that runs some tugboats up there in New York that's going to give us a full rundown about the lower bay, upper bay, and the vessel tracking system or the vessel separation scheme up there. That would be really helpful. So why am I wearing a life jacket on this call right now? It's mainly because we have a holiday weekend this weekend, and everybody and the grandmother's grandmother tends to get on the water. And not only that, but it's also the first time people are getting their boats on the water for the season this weekend, right? So it's a good idea to make sure that all your life jackets are ready to go for the weekend, right? Make sure everybody has a life jacket that fits them. Make sure that your life jackets are in serviceable condition, right? So not only should they fit, right? Not only should the straps be nice and tight around you, but the straps should not be deteriorated, right? They should be, the zippers should work, right? Also check your inflatables, right? Don't be afraid to open these things up, right? Open them up and check the cartridge. All right, check to make sure this pin isn't popped, right? Check to make sure that it is green. All right, I guess I'll take this thing off and show you, right? So I have to find it on this camera. All right, on this camera, make sure that this piece right here is green. All right, hopefully thumbs up if everyone can see that on the camera. I think everyone can see my camera, right? Okay, good. Ed can see it, Caitlin can see it. That might be all the people that can see it. But make sure that you're checking your inflatables, right? Make sure that they all fit. All right. Make sure that if you have a throwable flotation, a throwable type 4 PFD, right? One of those square kind of cushion like things. Oftentimes it winds up underneath someone and they're sitting on it kind of as a cushion. Um, that's actually not a cushion. Um, make sure that's in good condition. If you sit on it too much, it'll eventually become a pancake and it'll be squished. All right. If you pick it up and you shake it and it sounds like something's rattling on the inside, it's time to replace it. That's no longer in serviceable condition. It's not gonna float as well as it should, right? And if your boat is greater than 16 feet, you actually have to have at least one life jacket per person and one throwable per person, right? That's really important. If someone falls off your boat, you need to have some way to get something to them. That way they can hold on to it and float there long enough for you to figure out how to get your boat back to them and eventually bring them back onto the boat. All right. Good. I mean, what kind of life jacket should you have on your boat? You can have a type 1, you can have a type 2, 3, or type 5. That's what this is. Depending upon what you're going to be doing. Are you going to be going offshore? If you're going to be going in the ocean, it might be good to have a type 1 if you're going to be going way, way out there, right? I know if I'm driving around on the bay and if I see a whole bunch of people wearing those big giant orange collars, the type 2s, that's my red flag. Hey, these guys don't really know what they're doing. They just kind of grab that standard type 2 case. They bought the U.S. Coast Guard package from the dealership, right? They did not go out to the store. They did not go and get a life jacket that to make sure that's actually going to fit them, right? It doesn't feel good around them. So they just got the package, put it in the boat, and sent it. That's all they did. They didn't make sure that it's going to fit them. They didn't make sure that it's going to be comfortable. They're just going with it, right? One last thing, the inflatables, they're only good for people 16 years and older. You can check the there's a tag on the inside of it somewhere that says 16 years of age or older on it. Okay, now we're going to transition to the chart. All right, I do like to use. I have been using the Garmin Navionics chart lately. Um, it has been really useful on all of these webinars. We will transition to that now. Okay. If I can get thumbs up from people if they are looking at a chart now on the screen instead of the standard. Cool. All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna be zooming in here. Today we are going to be talking about the Barnegat Bay. I have us zoomed out, and we're going to be using the Navionics app. I don't know what app you like to use. There's a couple of them out there. Right now we're using the Navionics app because depending upon what dash-mounted device you have, very often this is going to be what the chart's going to look like. So might as well use the chart platform that you're going to be looking at. All right, let's zoom in and get started here. So we're going to start in the ICW. That's Intercoastal Waterway. And might as well just start right here where we stopped. Okay. In the Intercoastal Waterway, I like to highlight it every single time because people often get confused as to where they are when they're operating the boat, right? Hey, I'm in the water, driving the boat. All of a sudden, I get confused as to where I am in relation to the buoys and what direction am I going and what buoy needs to be on what side of me, all right? No matter where you are on the ICW, make sure that you have the green buoys between you and the Atlantic Ocean, and the red buoys between you and New Jersey. Okay. Again, if I kind of zoom out here far enough, you can see that in this instance, we have a green buoy right here, put the crosshairs on it. If I pan to the right, we have the Atlantic Ocean on our right, and we have New Jersey on our left. Okay. Could pan us up a little bit here. Here is where we follow the Intercoastal Waterway. If you're curious how I know that we're on the Intercoastal Waterway, one, we're behind the islands, and two, I've highlighted this on a couple of I do like to use the pink or the magenta color only because it shows up really nicely on the chart. Okay. If you look at the chart, you'll have a dotted line, magenta dotted line on the Navionics or the boating app, and that indicates that you are on the Intercoastal Waterway. Okay. If you are on your boat and curious if the buoys are intercoastal or if they are not intercoastal, a good indication about whether they are or not is a green buoy will have a yellow square on the channel marker somewhere. Somewhere on it, it will have a yellow or a gold square on it. The red marker, the red triangle, will have a golden triangle on that marker to indicate that it is dedicated as a intercoastal waterway channel marker. Okay. I think I just saw Michael Benson jump on the call. He may also jump in and out to give us more pointers as we come through here. All right. Again, this is the bottom of the predominant Barnegat Bay. As we come into here, we're just following the Intercoastal Waterway. In this area, we want to make sure that if you're, depending upon the draft of your boat, you're following the channel markers. We do see that there is kind of plenty of depth here to our port, which would be the screen left. If you're looking at it, we do have 6 foot, 7 foot, plenty of water. But on the starboard side, you do get shoaling pretty quickly, so you want to be mindful of that. In this area, I have found that people have sometimes hit the telephone poles, hit the channel markers, because they're not paying attention to the drift of the boat. All right, they'll be driving the boat, and all of a sudden the wind will be sliding them over to the starboard or sliding them over to the port, and they don't necessarily. Does somebody have donuts and they're not sharing with us? Joey, are you not sharing donuts with us, man? I said Joey's got a whole dozen of donuts in his truck, and he's not sharing the donuts with us. That's like having coffee and not sharing coffee with us. I don't know. I don't know what's happening right now. I saw those donuts, and I'm I'm disappointed, man. All right. So, yeah, just be mindful of the drift, right? The lateral drift when you're driving the boat in the channel, especially in this area, because we're crossing a large body of water where there is not much protection from that wind kind of blowing across, and it could be just slide your boat into the channel markers. Often people don't hit these square on the nose, on the bow, but they'll hit them on the side, right? And they'll just hit the side of that channel marker, right? Ever drive on the side on the road in your car and you see a stop sign just like bent over and like how did anybody hit that? Oftentimes on these channel markers you'll see something very similar with the green square bent a little bit or the red triangle bent a little bit because people are just whacking it with a fly bridge or something similar. Okay, so I'm going to kind of drift away from the channel over here because we have plenty of water. And in the Barnegat Bay in this area, there's a lot of water and it's really deep, right? We have 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot, 10 foot, really deep and plenty of water. We can go in this area and really not have to worry about running aground. Even if we have a sailboat, we don't have to worry about running aground. All right. And to our left here, we have our kind of a first set of marinas. Sorry, I like to have my other map up, which I do not have. It kind of disappeared on me. This area has that we're talking about. You should see the agenda with how many names of marinas there are on the agenda. But anyway, where did it just go? So, okay, in this area, we have a slew of marinas. First up, we have Sun Harbor Bay Club. You know what? Let me switch this view over to satellite imagery so we can see what we're looking at. Okay. And zoom in, get rid of here. All right, we have a whole bunch of marinas that we're looking at. We have, first up, we have Sun Harbor Bay Club. All right, we have Marinas Sun Harbor. We have Bobby's Bay. There is a couple restaurants. Ed, did you want to kind of go over which ones in here have the fuel, which ones do not?
Yeah, so the first one, it doesn't show fuel on the map, but Sun Harbor does have fuel. The fuel dock used to be located like inside their dock and dine docks. They've now put it on the outside, and it's a 24-hour a day fuel, which is nice. Along the frontage of the dock and dine, you have to have a vessel that's 29 feet or larger. Certainly on crowded days, or they kind of chase you out. But there's a probably 12 slips inside of a little breakwater, and then there's an additional bulkhead you can tie up on the west side. Mariners has fuel, and also Sun Harbor has a pretty nice restaurant up top, and more of a tap room downstairs, live music during the weekends. The next one is Mariners. Mariners has fuel, very well run marina, nice people. I don't know about guest slips there. Bob's Bay Marina, same thing. They don't have fuel, but a very nice marina. They're always helpful. The kind of places that if you have a little problem on a Saturday and there's a guy on duty, he's going to try to help you out, get things going. And then there is one more place up in there, an oyster conservatory where you can go up and get oysters on the half shell. It's a BYOB type of place, and it's not well marked, but you can dock at any of the places if there's an open spot and walk over to it or grab some takeout oysters. So it's a nice little area.
Okay. And where is that at? So I
If
can
you
point out to them.
So where that fuel tank, where the fuel symbol is,
Yep.
if you went into that parking lot next to it, to the left of that fuel symbol, it's in there.
Okay. All right. So you're talking about in this area here?
Yeah, and it's really just a shack. The boats unload some oysters in there. I'm not sure who whose oyster farm it is that they got from. I don't think it's Parsons that far north, but they get good oysters,
Okay, that's good to know. That's really good to know.
and it's a 5 minute drive from my house, so I like it.
That's even better. Awesome. All right, thank you. All right. All right, coming out here. If you're coming out of Barnegat Township, there's plenty of water. You don't really have any concern as you're coming out. As I'm coming out here, I'm going to get rid of the satellite imagery just to get rid of all that static, right? Um,
Paul, there is that public ramp there too, just before you get to those marinas.
oh, there is.
Yeah, it's that little plus mark just offshore of the marina there. That's about where the public ramp is. Yeah, just kind of see it there.
Right about there. That's convenient. How is it
Yeah.
using that ramp with that island right there?
So here's the problem. The ramp is very nice, but it's blind to the boats coming in and out. So the people using the ramp can't see boats traveling the channel in and out, and the boats can't see people using the ramp. So just use. I always slow down well before I get there, and just use a lot of caution. But it's a huge parking lot, plenty of parking. It's very nice, well maintained ramp. So it's not bad. It gets you good access right to the Barnegat Bay.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Having a ramp with ample parking is not something I'm used to. You don't get that anywhere in New Jersey, to be honest.
Can I just,
That's
um, it's Mike Benson. Can I just add two thoughts on ramps on the
sure,
Barnegat
Mike.
Bay, just while we're on the theme? Two of
Yeah.
the better free ramps I could think of on the Barnegat Bay. One's well north, Tom's River, the one by Mill Creek Park. It's not really good for huge boats in the sense that water depth and launching isn't the issue, but turning your vehicle around on the street that leads to the ramp, which is literally the end of the road, and you just kind of back in. It's not the best surface going in, but it's a fair grade and it works well. It's a good ramp and it's free and plenty of parking along that fence. The other free one I know of is over by Sloop Creek, not far from MJ's restaurant, by marker 39 or so. There's also
Okay. Yeah,
fuel.
we're gonna get to that one in a little bit.
Oh,
That
so
is the
sorry.
Oyster Creek boat ramp.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry about
Yep.
that.
Yeah. No, all good. All good. Thanks though. But yeah, we'll get to that one after we get above Waretown. A good call on Oyster Creek boat ramp. Yep. Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. All right. We're zooming out here. Uh, so Mike, for us, he covers a lot of our sailboat training. He brought a sailboat up and around from Texas up to the Jersey area. All right, we're going to continue north. The Barnegat Bay, again, nice, gigantic, and wide. We do have lots of 10-foot area. We will get back over and we will talk about how to kind of navigate up here. But first, I want to talk about the Waretown area over here. All right, if you're coming into this Waretown area here into Key Harbor, make sure that you are using the channel. It is marked very well. Make sure that you're using the channel because even though the bay does have, I mean, we can see here, right? We do have 10 feet, we do have 11 feet in the bay. You can see it kind of the middle to the bottom right of the screen, right? But as we're going into the marina, all of a sudden it gets really shallow really quick, right? It goes from 11 feet down to 2 feet almost, right? So make sure that you follow those channel markers and every year they move them. It just kind of moves with the sandbar, right? Okay. All right, coming in here. Anybody, either of you want to talk about this marina? Ed or
Yeah.
Mike?
So they've done a nice job. The marina's nice, and they've redone in the last couple of years the fuel dock area. They probably have 6 pumps, and they're relatively high speed if you have a lot of fuel. And the fuel is 24-hour there, so it's paid by credit card. Also have
Okay.
a small marine store and a bait and tackle store right in there. So, but it is important to watch out. You don't want to error going in. You don't want to error to the port. It shows up at the entrance, and there are some rocks down there.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. As he said, was that Ed just speaking that mentioned the rock hazard? Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely correct. That's what I was going to mention. And it's also a good place for waste pump out. Their fuel dock is very nice. Um, those are the two things I would have mentioned there as well.
And a restaurant in there.
Oh, how about it? There you go. Never been.
I love it. All right. How about, is this Lemmings back here? I think it's Lemmings back here, right? Lagoon. Or was Lemmings back there? Isn't it Lemmings back there?
Well, that does sound right. I know it's a long ride back there, but it is a rather large marina once you get back there.
Yeah, I think it's Lemmings back there, right? Um, yeah, it's a long ride back there. It's not as long as some of the neighborhoods. It's just make sure you do a straight run into the neighborhood as you're going in. Um, again, you have that sandbar, so make sure. I do like to use brown for sandbars, right? So you have the sandbar out here. So make sure you're going kind of straight in on that, right? Okay. Once you get in there, you're fine. You don't really have to worry about anything. And you do have Lemmings Marina way back on in there in the neighborhood. All right, before we go too far away from the bay, I want to highlight, is this one of them? No, this is not one of them. Where is the channel marker? Okay, here's a channel marker. All right, in the Barnegat Bay, okay, there are these channel markers. I was looking through my pictures. I could not find a picture of one. Maybe Ed or Mike has a picture of one of these things, right? So they are called safe water markers, all right? There are these red and white channel markers, and they are not, so the way you treat these things is you use them like highway dividers, right? You leave them on your left side, and if everyone leaves them on your port side, no one runs into each other. Okay, but everyone comes up to these things and is so confused as to what they are because you just see red and assume them to be a red channel marker, and you treat them as a red channel marker, but in reality they're red and white, right? And you use them as the highway divider, and you try and as long as you use them as a highway divider in this area, everybody is fine. Okay, and in this area you have to be very careful, and you have to pay attention and look for lots of crab pots. Okay, because from the safe watermarks, the red and white safe watermarks, from there to the right, let me get rid of the satellite imagery just to get rid of all that static. In the red. Everywhere over here is nothing but crab pots. Nothing but crab pots. They're all over there. Pay attention for them. Watch for them. They're everywhere over there. Every time I go out there, they're all over out there. Make sure you keep your eye out for them. All right.
Excuse me, Paul.
Yes, sir.
So are you describing like BI, marker BI and marker BB? Is that what we're describing as safe water markers?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Sit
I
stack
didn't
behind you,
realize
Jade.
But there was a directional suggestion associated with them. I just thought they allowed you to have a understanding that the mark is in the position it's in, and I didn't know it carried a connotation about how one should pass relative to it.
Yeah,
But
it's designated as the center of the road is how it's designated, right? So it's that's designated as the highway divider. Best way to describe it. Yeah. So if everyone leaves it to the port, no one runs into each other, kind of a thing. Yeah. If you get out, if you were to get out into the shipping lanes offshore, you would find them between the shipping lanes. And the shipping lanes would then be designated with red and greens alternatively. And they would mark the center of the shipping lanes
We
way
used to call
offshore.
them mid-channel markers when we were growing up.
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yep. But everyone sees them and everyone drives past them and no one knows how to use them. And they just see the red and assume that they're red until you get on top of them and they're like, what is that? All right, over here in Waretown, since we're near land, I'll switch it back to the satellite imagery. I'm sorry to jump back and forth between the satellite and the no overlay. It's just really helpful when you're kind of zooming in, just to kind of get an orientation as to where you are and what you're looking at. Okay. All right, over here we have a couple marinas. We do have. I do know that there's Baker's Basin in here. You have Baker's Basin. You have South Harbor in here. I don't know about Baltic Marina. Is Baltic Marina still in there? Does anyone know?
Don't know. I've been up to Baker's, and other than that, I've just been at private residence type work back there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, a lot of water back there. Yeah, back here. Yeah, back here you get Baker's. But over here there was a marina just on the inside called Baltic that I'm not sure if it's there anymore.
Marina's
If you
saying
look,
it's her marina, and then she goes to Baltic. So
yeah, okay. All right. Tell them to update their Facebook page so I know that they actually exist. That'll be helpful. Or there was, yeah, yeah. So when I go and set up and do the agenda for this, I try to get on their websites, make sure that they're still there. And if I can't find their website, then I jump on their Facebook page, and if they don't have any updated stuff, I'm like, are they still there? But it's good to know. Thanks, Gina. All right. This is another one of those entrances, right? Make sure that you stick to the sticks, right? Stick to the buoys on your way in. Because if you don't stick to the buoys, you're going to run aground. You can see in the contours, we'll slide away and I'll switch it back over to no overlay. So we can see the gradient colors in the water, right? Just make sure that you're sticking to the stick, sticking to the channel. Slide up a little bit more. Now we get into predominantly into Waretown and back to satellite. All right, just in here on, where are we? In Waretown, you have a couple marinas. You do have Spencer's, and we do have, come on, click. That's not clicking. And you do have Long Key. Long Key is humongous. It is really long. It goes the entire length of the entire length of this. It's pretty big, decent size in there. All right, on your way in and out of here, again, make sure you're using the channel. It is well marked. on your way in and out. All right, we can slide up north a little bit more. Just up a little bit. We did come across Holiday Harbor up here. They do have fuel, and they do have a pump out. It is a nice spot to stop if you need those services. Then right up around the corner, kind of up around the corner, right? You would still have to go kind of out into the bay. I know I'm jumping back and forth between the overlay and imagery, but we can see that kind of sandbar, right, with a dark blue. Something I have not switched over yet to would be, we'll switch over to the nautical chart. I like to use the sonar chart because I get all the contours. But if we go over to the nautical chart, you can really see where these sandbars are, right? It's just obvious that you have the 3 foot, the 4 foot. That's kind of some of those areas that you just do not want to go. But it doesn't really give me enough information that I can boat with that. So I like to use the sonar chart because that gives me a whole lot more information than I can use. All right, so we can kind of go into Oyster Creek. That is also well marked. Follow that in, and then just in here on the port side is where we come across the Oyster Creek boat ramp. Mike, you were mentioning this earlier. I could not find and verify. Is there a fee for this ramp? Does anyone know if there's a fee for this ramp?
Mike mentioned before it's free, and Junior is also saying it's free and very shallow.
Okay.
This ramp, are we way up Forked River in this image?
No, we are not. We are at the Oyster Creek boat ramp.
Yeah, that's not the boat ramp I was describing. I was describing Sloop Creek was the other ramp I was describing, and Mill Creek on the Toms River was what I was describing. I'm not familiar with this ramp.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, this
Hey.
ramp right here.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was the one that said it was free. It's run by the town of Waretown. I guess the state built it, but you'll definitely turn up in mud no matter what tide you're at. It's pretty shallow, just close to the ramp, and then when you get out into the Oyster Creek, it's deep enough.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. So use it with a wave runner is what you're saying.
Yeah, smaller boats. I mean, I got like a walk around 24, and I'll launch that in there. But you just got to trim
Okay.
up and get in now. Just mud, soft mud bottom.
All right. How is it maneuvering back there behind that building? It looks like you go in there back behind like a township building or something.
Yeah, it's a park. There's like a tennis court, a little pavilion. I believe it's a bathroom house. Actually, they got
Okay.
fish cleaning station, stuff like that in there.
Nice. All right. All right. Then we'll come back out into the river, not the river, into the bay, and we will slide a little bit up, a bit north, and then I believe this is Forked River. Now, Forked River and I don't know what it is, but we do not get along. So if somebody else wants to take over for Forked River, Ed or Mike, feel free.
I'll give you my take on Forked River. It's crowded on weekends, but there are some decent services there. Going into the channel, as with all the channels, kind of pay attention. It turns to slow speed, and then there's a island, which you can see on the left side of your screen. When you get there, the channel is very, very narrow and very, very crowded. So you'll have 45-foot, 50-foot, both power and sailboats coming out and in. So you really just kind of drop in and do your best. It gets real shallow right on the edges. There's 2 nice dock and dines. There's gas at 3 or 4 marinas there. I do like it as a nice place to go up and kind of just people watch and boat watch. And it terminates up at Route 9. So it's kind of cool. You turn it around at the end on Route 9. That's on the North Fork. The South Fork goes back past the Lacey Elks building, which is a nice club with a lot of nice docks, but they don't have fuel or anything on the South Branch. But yeah, it's worth a trip up. The dock and dines have limited dockage, but on a weekday certainly you can get in there and they both have good food. So it's worth the trip. Not necessarily a destination of mine, but worth the trip.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. So the first dock and dine you will come across is going to be Southwinds right here at the first marina on your right. You can see it right here. You have the fork and the knife and the little
It has a
martini
big
glass.
red roof you'll see from the river.
Looks like they have ample docking there as well.
Yeah, a lot of
how much
those
of that
are-
is transient?
Yeah, probably 8 transient. The rest is all privately rented. At the fuel dock just to the east of it, the fuel dock closes around 5:30 or 6, and you can dock there. It's kind of part of the same facility, but you just can't dock there during the day.
Okay. Slide up here a little bit. All right, the second dock and dine.
Oh, you may have passed it already, Paul.
Yeah, I think I did. There
Yeah,
it is. This shack right here. I think it's
yeah,
this
it has
one,
the
right?
big white tent and then the building behind it.
I think it's this one.
Yep,
Yeah, I think it's that one.
Captain's Inn.
Yeah. How much docking do they have?
Again, maybe 12 transient slips. Neither of these places have floating docks, so it's a little bit of chore. You're going in there and lassoing some pilings and rigging up. They have finger piers, so most of the time you're going to need to back in unless you have a bow rider you can get off. But both places do usually have a dock hand that'll come out and give you a little bit of help.
Okay, nice.
There is decent tidal flow in there, so it can present a little bit of challenge docking when the tides move and mid tide either way.
All right, good to know. Good to know. All right, thank you. All right, there's quite a few marinas in this area. Caitlin, who's running admin today, thank you for your help tonight, by the way. She's copying and pasting from our running agenda into the comments, along with the links to everything. So feel free to be grabbing anything out of there that you are interested in for that.
Well, the last thing I'll point out is at the very end is a state marina that almost always has transient slips available. They have a nice bathhouse, a nice showers, all that type of stuff. And as I said, it's right on Route 9. So if you were going from Connecticut and this was your stopover for a day or two, you can reprovision there and get an Uber to all the major stores. So it's a good option for a layover for a day or two.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. I'm actually usually surprised to see how many loopers are on this river, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it's deep water, which helps.
Yeah, there's quite a few that wind up at the state marina and down here along the bulkhead. I'm quite surprised how many find their way up into here.
Excuse me, Paul, just to add one
Sure.
thing about the Forked River, and this, veers a little bit into opinion, but I feel that Silver Cloud Marina is one of the north of median good spots to go if you needed services. If, say, a mechanical issue, an electrical issue, even rigging if it was a sailboat. There's other good places as well, for certain. But they're reputable, and I've known a number of people that get good results there. Just throwing that out there. I've never used them personally, but I've known others that have had good results with the services at Silver Clef.
I agree with Mike.
Got it. All right. Thank you very much. All right, before we kind of go north here, after we come out of Forked River, all right, we're going to be kind of sliding out here to the bay. All right, we kind of come north slightly. And the one thing that we, of course, have to highlight while we are here shall be the shoal, right? Who wants to talk about the shoal?
Would it be possible if you're to zoom out so everyone can orient themselves real quickly? I know the bay is very large, and then we can talk about where the shoal is. Thank you so much.
Sure.
When you say the shoal, are we just thinking Ice's shoal? Or?
Yeah, who wants to talk about Tice's shoal and how to get there?
I'll say you do not approach it from the north typically. Like you'd rather get rather even with it and then head in sooner than you would want to just carve a line from, say, Bayville to Tice's, unless you're on like a shoal planing vessel and you don't intend on dropping off a plane.
Okay. Okay, so we're talking about here is for me. So I don't usually come up here. So help me out with this one.
Well, when I go there, I come out of the Forked River and almost beeline towards it, straight across. You know, it's a narrow cone, as Mike said, a narrow cone of available draft going into there. And once you're over there, it's a very gradual decrease in draft. You know, you'll find 5 feet and then 100 yards, 4 feet. So it's nice that way. It's a sandy bottom, very crowded on weekends. I typically will go a little further south, but still in the shoal area, and anchor up there to get out of the melee. They have a couple big events every year where there's the sheriff's department's there and they cordon off an area for emergencies. But it's a nice place. During the week, you can go there and anchor up and hear the waves break on the other side of the beach, Island Beach.
Okay. All right, so it's Tice's Shoals. Kind of zoom out here so you can see where we are.
So to me, when we're talking about Tice's Shoal, one of the landmarks worth mentioning is the boardwalk at Fisherman's Road that goes across to the ocean. So that's kind of near the northern boundary. Like people go like every bit of like call it a third of a mile further north or more, but that's like where the ground zero of Tice's is in terms of density. So I don't know. I like to I personally go kind of not far from the walkway, just maybe out of old habit. I'm typically coming from Cedar Creek when I'm coming, so I'm just a touch north of Forked River. But I
Okay.
think what Ed was saying about going straight across from Forked River, anywhere in that cone, like those purple lines currently there,
Yeah.
that verge upon the shoal, that approximates like sort of the philosophy of it. You could see how the shoal comes well west south and well west north, and you're trying to capitalize on that lane of deep water.
Yeah.
It's really nothing complicated or tricky, but it's just sort of smart to go in the way that allows good gradual depth control, like Ed was mentioning.
Okay, so maybe I should have to get rid of all these contours so we could see it a little bit better. All right, so we have, and get rid of the satellite imagery. So for those of you that have not been to Tice's Shoals, right? So if you're looking at the chart here, you can see how there is, annotate with the brown right? I'll highlight the sandbar here, right? So the pen, we have this sandbar that is roughly like this, right? And you can see that. So if we're coming from, if you pick a line, right? So I don't know, for me, I go with Sunset Beach. Everyone has a different line, right? So, or if you just if you're just going to go with Forked River, take it Forked River and go straight for Tyson Shoal, right? But you got to go in there and you got to just, this is where it is, right? Pick a spot. There's going to be a lot of boats in there on the weekends. There's going to be a lot of boats in there this weekend. Some people, even what they do is they go in there on Friday. There's a guy that goes in there Friday with a houseboat and he anchors up there and he doesn't leave until Sunday night. That's what they do all weekend.
There was a hot dog boat there last year too. Most weekends, hot dogs
Yeah.
and sodas. Yeah.
Just
Nice.
the type of steering required to make it through the dense anchorage there, especially on days with stronger winds, is you have to kind of take the stern of an anchored vessel many times so their road isn't a threat to you. And you kind of got to turn up around it to make sure you don't blow out or wide towards maybe another vessel like laterally positioned from them. You kind of gotta, it's almost like a mogul field almost, but with anchored boats. It's tight and you really have to think about where you're going after where you're going. You got to stay a few moves ahead.
That's fun. That's fun. All right. Back to normal boating. Silent imagery. Okay. Zoom back in and continue. All right, we're going to slide up here. We are on the bay, and we come across, this is going to be Lenoka Harbor here on our left. There are a couple marinas. There are two marinas which are way back in this first neighborhood here. You have Swan Marina and Laurel Harbor Marina that are way back in there. To get to Swan Marina, you have to come in through this south entrance. It's another one of those entrances that you have to stick to the channel markers. If you go outside the channel markers, you're gonna run aground.
Hug that property owner's bulkhead is what you're after there. In other words, it's really tight. There'll be marked channels in the high season, but you want to take the property owner's bulkhead side, not the marsh side, and then proceed in wide and then turn. And then it's pretty easy breezy from there on. But that first
That's valid. Thanks for letting us know.
that's
Good
a
to
great
know.
place to go in the fall when it's like windy as hell and you want to just sort of chill out somewhere with some shelter. Those trees you're looking at right there are tall sandbanks, which they're like 15 foot off the water with trees on top of them. It's a nice little sheltered spot to just kind of hide.
Awesome. That's good. Good to know. All right. Now, if you're coming into Laurel Harbor, you're going to come in off of the north side. You can't come in off the south side. You have to come in off the north side. Definitely be careful. You do have a hazard right here. You have all this mud and all of these buoys highlighting the mud. Make sure you go around it to the north side. All right. You have to really hug. You have to. There's a kind of a cut through. Sometimes it's marked, sometimes it's not. Right? You have to avoid that little sandbar that you can only see during low tide. All right, come around it, hug the island side, and then find your entrance and go in. All right, and do not get lost and pick the wrong road, wrong canal to go down, because you get really irritated when you have to turn around. Not speaking from experience, I promise.
Ever seen that buoy, that island buoyed in the past? That island is it used to be above water like 15, 20 years ago, but it's only on like a winter blowout tide will it ever be visible these days, and barely. So yeah, that's a real hazard right there.
Yeah. All right, coming up to Cedar Creek. Cedar Creek is nice and deep in here. You got 7 feet, 8 feet deep the whole way in. Just kind of pay attention as you're getting closer to shore, but you'll be fine the whole way in here. We do have a couple marinas in here. Anybody familiar that wants to talk about this creek?
This I would love to speak about because I grew up like right on this creek. The number one thing I would
Sure.
suggest is, can you hear me? Like,
Yes.
so if you were entering Cedar Creek at night, especially if coming from the south on the bay, it's absolutely important to ensure you go far enough north before making an effort to turn in, because the low-lying marsh at the mouth of the creek will be completely invisible, yet the lights of the marinas and houses deep in the creek will kind of be luring you in like, oh, you're home now, you're here, go ahead, do it. And you're not there yet. Like, you got to really make sure you're far enough north before you turn in. And the only challenging thing about navigation into the Cedar Creek at any time is if you see on the northern bank of the creek, there's a spit about 2/3 of the way in or whatever. That's the only choke point that the channel has. If you look at the tip of the beach cove to the south, there's a tightness there that if you're going to get anything wrong, you don't want to be north of the red marker at that choke point. If you draw more than 4 feet, like, you will have a bad time. But
All right, see if
from
I
there,
can annotate this for everybody. So we're talking
right there, yep, that's where it is, Paul.
Where? So see if I can get this. You're talking choke
from that
point right here.
Yeah, from the no, more so. You see that spit above the middle of the line, that tiny little cove to the north, and then there's the big cove to the south. If you connected those two peninsulas linearly, the choke will occur in that vicinity. You could kind of see how the channel constrains.
Okay. Yeah.
It's at the right side of your screen right now.
Yep.
And then once you're past that choke point, the northern part of the creek is reasonably deep, the whole width, within about a couple 100 feet of the shore. It's all usable. That changes deep in the creek. Like, as you pass Ocean Beach Marina, which is the first marina, and you approach Lenoka Marina, the south side of the creek will become quite shoaled in, because the natural fork of the creek, Cedar Creek, is flowing out on the Lenoka Harbor Marina side. And if you were to want to go through there, you act like you're going to the Cedar Creek Sailing Center direction, and you go all the way to the houses on the bulkheads, and then you turn left when you reach the bulkheads, and you hug the bulkheads within, like, say 40 feet, 50 feet of the bulkheads, and follow that perimeter. If you were to go straight across, nobody's going to do this, but if you were to go well past the marinas on the southern fork that is the Cedar Creek and try to go straight across that little clearing where the houses are on the perimeter, there's all cedar stumps and stuff under there. You don't want to go straight across it. You have to follow the perimeter. It's quite nice up there. It's calm. You can actually get to the outlet of the Cedar Creek right below the Cedar Creek bathing beach. And again, you want to stick to the residential side of the body of water at all times, because it shoals on the other side.
Okay. All right. So when we're traveling in this area, we want to make sure that we're staying to the south side of this creek, right? Until we get to
that area you outlined. You could see the hazard there. Right. You did it perfect. Yep.
Right, we would do this until we get to Lenoka Harbor Creek, right? And if we're going to go up to the Cedar Creek sailing area, right? Then once we're at the Lamoka Harbor, that's when we would make the starboard curve up, right? But we want to avoid this hazard on the port
Right.
side, right?
That pink line is perfect, even if you wanted the southerly fork. Like you turn left, like basically near the tip of your pink line. Like yeah, like something like that. But it's obvious when the channel markers are there. It's like it carries you all the way to the houses because that's where the deep water is.
Okay.
So it's
That's
not
fair.
really that useful information, but if anybody ever wanted to go there, that's the critical detail. I only
Great.
have about 2 more things to offer in that region.
Okay.
Stouts Creek, south of Laurel Harbor, which was the southern side that we discussed earlier. Stouts Creek is a beautiful body of water that you can look at the Forsyth Preserve to the south, and you
Hold on,
stick to the
where's Stouts
residential
Creek?
side. Excuse me, Forsyth is to the north on that creek, and you stick to the residential side, and it's plenty deep. It's like 8-10 foot deep all over the place, and it's beautiful.
Where's that?
It's north of Forked River. It's south of Laurel Harbor. So keep flowing south. So
There's Forked River.
go north of there to the
This is
next point. And
Stouts
okay,
Creek.
so you see how that marsh has a few tendrils pointing north? You can
Yes.
pass right into that middle of the screen body of water. That is Stouts Creek, and that's a nice ride in. If you go all the way in with a reasonable boat, you could tie off to a tree in a bank, and you could walk to Home Depot. And you used to have White Castle you could go to, but now I guess all there is Taco Bell. So in other words, it's pretty close to Route 9 if you go all the way deep in there.
Let's see where we're at here.
Yeah, a lot of this poking around I used to do when I had a small whaler back a ways, and it's just fun to go lagoon cruising. Like over in Glen Cove in Bayville, there's this character that's got a massive shark mounted on the second story of their waterfront house. It's kind of cool looking.
All right, Nate, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and
I'll be interested to try going back into there with
I'll try
a
when we get closer
little
to
rim.
Seaside.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna slide a little bit north here. A little bit north here, we do have there is Trixie Landing right here on the inside of this cove. And you do have a little anchorage right here. This is Trixie Landing. I know it says Downs Marina, but it's Trixie Landing right there. We'll zoom out, light up a little bit. You have Berkeley Island Marina. All right, and if you do pay attention and you do see all those channel markers going in there, right? Pay attention to these channel markers. They're there for a reason, right? It looks a little wonky, especially when you're driving your boat into it, right? But they're there for a reason. Follow the channel into there. It does this kind of circular motion, but it goes around that sandbar. So pay attention and just follow it in. You'll get into the marina. It feels a little wonky. I get it, but it's kind of is what it is, right? As long as it gets you in there safe and you don't run aground, it doesn't matter how wonky it winds up being. Right. Has anybody talked to MJ's this year? Are they going to have their dock available? Anybody know? Okay, so for exploratory for the
I've not been past it yet this year.
okay, so for exploratory for everybody in the area, right here we have MJ's restaurant. That's a nice spot to go in there, get some food and drinks. I'll zoom out so you can see where it is. In accordance with kind of the bay, right? So it's a good spot kind of in the middle of the bay. All right, we're kind of a good distance from, if you didn't want to fight and get all the way up into Forked River and you're looking for food, your next stop could be or would be MJ's, right? And MJ's is right here on the inside of this little bay, and they do have a small dock that goes out that you can tie up to. All right. The bay is deep enough you can get in there. Just pay attention. There are occasionally some people that are anchored in there, and people do occasionally anchor up and swim at the beach in the area. Pay attention as you're going into there. Okay. Back out to the bay. Slide back up a little bit. All right. On the left there, we have CNC Marina underneath that tidal gauge. That is right here. Getting into CNC Marina, you do have to follow a little stream, a little channel into there. It is marked going in, all of these things. They have so many channel markers up there. It's crazy. And you can get confused as to which channel you're following. You just have to kind of pay attention and consult your chart or consult your GPS to make sure that you know that you're going into the correct one. All right, I'm going to keep going north. As you are approaching this area up into the Toms River area, make sure that you are paying attention because the Barnegat Bay goes from really wide to it starts getting really narrow, right? And the channel markers, they start making an about turn. If you're not paying attention, if you were on autopilot going straight, you will wind up on the grass, on the marsh, right there, or on the mud just before it. I have seen yachts wind up on the mud right there because they were on autopilot going all the way up that bay and not paying attention to where they were going. All right. Right here, we have a couple of things going on in. We do have B2 Bistro. Has anyone been by them yet this year to know if their docks are in or if they're going to be putting docks in this year? I'll assume that they are because they're usually pretty good. B2 Bistro. I know it says Barnegat Pier there, but that is not Barnegat Pier. Right here is B2, the number 2 Bistro. We also have Good Luck Point Marina right here. This is kind of, you have to make a straight run in there, come in, and then you're good once you're on the inside. All right, I know it shows you some marinas. I love the old indication marinas. There is nothing there, nothing there. Okay. Up here, you really have to kind of pay attention to where you are. Again, it gets really narrow really quick, right? It also gets really shallow really quick. Now, let me change our view again and go get rid of the satellite and get rid of all the contours so we can see how shallow it got all of a sudden. All right, now we're looking at 4 foot, 5 foot. People say that a lot of this bay here is travelable. You can travel across it without getting stuck. Not a chance. All right. Make sure that you're following the channel markers in this area. All right. Especially if you draw lots of water. After you go around, if you get out of the Barnegat Bay and you go around this point, the one I pointed out, say, hey, make sure you turn off your autopilot. Once you're in there and you have a boat that you're going to be drawing more than 3 feet, make sure that you're staying in the channel. All right, if you're in a wave runner, all right, you can go outside the channel. If you have a jet boat, okay, go outside the channel. If you have a small boat, okay, go outside the channel. If you have a cabin cruiser, stay in the channel. Okay, getting over to seaside. Let's go back to the sonar chart so we can see some contours. Okay, we can see how to get over to Seaside Park Yacht Club, right? Seaside Park Yacht Club, my rule of thumb is I either go straight from the straight line, go to my pink. Okay, we have the Good Luck Point Marina. This Good Luck Point, I usually do a straight run over to Seaside Park Yacht Club, all the way up until that red channel marker, right? I have this kind of angle that I can get to it. Other than that, I can't get to it once I get beyond that red channel marker, and I can't make it run to it before I am basically lateral with that Good Luck Point Marina. If I'm not in that area, you can't make that run. Because anything below that, you're going to run aground. All this area here where it says cable area, if I zoom in close enough, we're going to see. I mean, it's 4 foot, 3 foot, depending upon what you're running, you're gonna run aground, right? All right, down south here, there's another marina. There is Seaside Park Yacht Club. There's another one all the way at the south. I think that's the Island Beach State Park Marina. Yeah, it's right here. Island Beach State Park Marina. And in order way to get there is you really got to pay attention on the way in. And that one you got to go from the number 37, take the 37 in, but you got to pay attention. And once you get over there, there's channel markers to get you in, but you got to get to the channel markers first. So usually I'm at the number 37, and I look for the channel markers to get in. Get rid of the marks. So this is number 37 and the 38, right? I'm looking over here. There's going to be some channel markers over here to get you in to here, to get you around, because there's a sandbar right here. Right here. What's going on? Oh, okay. All right, so to get over here, right, once I'm in this area, that's when I look for that channel marker, and I just go right to it, and I'm in. And you're golden once you get in that area.
That just to mention it, Paul, you kind of hinted at it, but that's definitely really a small boat kind of place. It's tight and small in there. Even that marina, nothing big in there. It's like
No.
dull and little.
Yep. Yeah, you're not going back there with a cabin cruiser. You're going back there with a skiff or a center console. You're not going back there with anything too big. All right. Once we get up here, we do have the we do have J Street Marina over here. J Street Marina, that is a basically a straight run in. You do a straight run in from the channel over here. You do have this sandbar. Where's that sandbar at? That's 5 feet. That's not right. There's a sandbar in here. And you got to be real careful of it. I don't see it on the chart, but there's a sandbar in there. I found it with boats and churned mud. There's a sandbar here somewhere. All right. I avoid it like the plague. So I just take this channel and I go straight for the marina. That's all I do. And that way I avoid it. And to get there from the other way, I come up, I come to this red channel marker, and I come in, and I go like that. because there is a sandbar here somewhere. I don't know where it is. I just know it's there. And the only way I avoid it is to go to this red channel marker and go around it to find my way in there. I don't know where it is. Other people say it's not there, but I've driven over it enough times and churned mud that I don't want to go over it again. Yeah. Okay. Stop annotating. All right. After that, we now approach Tom's River and the Route 37 bridge. All right. And that's the top of our conversation area. All right. I don't want to talk about the Tom's River right now because I think we've talked a lot tonight. Sorry we went over our 8 o'clock threshold to 8:18. Yeah, we've talked about quite a bit. There really isn't anything over here on Seaside. Is there a marina over there? Yeah, there is.
That's how you could go to Stewart's root beer under there if you got a really low air draft, like say under 7 foot. Check the height.
I've been underneath there a couple times. There used to be a place to eat right here at this dock, but that's gone. Other than that, there's no reason to go over here. There's some guys that rent boats out over here and wave runners, so you just kind of stay away from that. Other than that, if you're going to the bridge and you draft any sort of water, stick to the channel here, right? Because of the sandbars, right? Stick to the channel like glue. Okay, we talked about quite a bit, and thank you, Ed, and thank you, Mike, for all of your information. There's no possible way I can know every single inch of water and river throughout New Jersey. Absolutely not possible. Thank you for your insight. Did anybody want to talk about any other areas along this stretch of water that we talked about?
Did you guys
the water.
talk about the local creek channel? Sorry if I interrupted you, Ed. While it's on your screen, I'll say totally ignore that easterly portion by the bridge. That's very shallow in there. Just never be near there.
Oh, by the 37 bridge?
Yeah, like if you were to draw a line from that northerly-most straight lagoon straight out to say marker 41, I want to say it is, the red one. Well, no, wait, it wouldn't be even. I apologize.
34. Yeah,
It's
that's
just
all sandbar there.
Side of the span. Out quite a ways too. Don't want to be anywhere near it.
Yeah, this is all sandbar here.
Yeah, that's like a no-go zone. Like forever ignore that water is even there. Don't want any
sandbar. Yeah, there's also a sandbar here. And here.
The westerly portion of the Mathis Bridge there, not that you should go under the non-opening span, non-designated span, but I'd say the first 2 or even 3 are passable without obstruction. But on the northern side of that bridge, there's old piles that are only visible at certain states of tide that you definitely don't want to run into on the northern portion, western side.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know we talked about them on the Manahawkin Bridge. I don't know if I don't know. Are these icebreakers or are these the pylons from the old bridge? I don't know what you want to call them, but they're.
Yeah, I think you're correct, Paul. It's something to that effect.
They're death traps is what they're actually are. Stay away from them.
They're very predictable. They're in the same place always.
Yep.
Did you guys talk
But
about
yeah,
the Oyster Creek Channel at all? That connects like the Barnegat Inlet to the western portion of the bay.
We talked a little about Double Creek. We didn't talk much about Oyster Creek. That was last week.
All I have to say about any of that is just totally watch your line and make sure you're not getting swept one way or the other, because you're not always going where you're pointed, and it's tricky pilotage. You got to make sure you keep your bottom over where you think you are. It's that's all I have to say about that. But yeah, I don't want to drag it out, but those are just a handful of thoughts I had. This was enjoyable. I logged in because it was relevant to my experience. I'm sorry, I've been pretty busy and I haven't made a call yet, but this is very
it's
interesting.
all right,
and I
Mike.
enjoyed our
Thanks.
time. Thank you.
Absolutely. There've been quite a few people on the call. Thank you all for jumping on. I think this is the biggest call we've had so far. Did anybody? There's no way I answered everybody's questions about this area. Feel free to unmute and ask a question if you have something, or throw it in the comment if you're afraid to talk.
I did have a question of, will you cover the approach to the inlets on another day?
Yes. You know what? I can transition it back to so I can figure out what that day is. I am going to have a
Thanks for joining us
specific-
for this session of Whitman Marine Training's Boater's Compass. I hope you found this discussion helpful in navigating safer and smarter. As always, stay aware, plan ahead, and respect the water. Don't forget to check out our upcoming webinars. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like covered next time, please let us know. Subscribe for updates. And until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and enjoy the journey and get out on the water and have some fun.